Have any of you all heard of Wouter Basson?
What?
Wouter Basson?
What? It's a drug or is it what?
He was a doctor. He was a doctor people thought brought mandrax onto the street in South Africa.
We never heard of it. You are not following the history of drugs. We are just smoking.
If there's one name to know in the history of South African mandrax, it's Wouter Basson. In 1999, Basson was put on trial for his involvement in a secret chemical and biological warfare program, codenamed Project Coast. Basson claims to have weaponized street drugs like MDMA, LSD, and most prominently, mandrax. He planned to use these drugs for crowd control purposes in the event of an anti-apartheid uprising. Yet the exact nature of Basson's crowd control technique remains uncertain. Talk to you later. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. It's great meeting you. Thanks a lot. On the outskirts of Johannesburg, I met with Jenny Wild, a human rights lawyer who stood up against the apartheid government to expose the drug research of Project Coast.
Project Coast was a very large-ranging project. It involved the creation of biochemical weapons. It involved the reduction or strategies to reduce the black population of South Africa, probably the most serious component, really. And chemicals, drugs, narcotics were deliberately synthesized by the apartheid regime in order to incapacitate people. The tragedy being that they were doctors and medical people. But then again, you must remember, apartheid really didn't have any scruples at all when it came to its survival. And there were things that went on in this country during that time that makes the Nazis, frankly, appear like a Sunday school picnic.
Beyond the weaponization of methaqualone, Project Coast scientists claim to have bred super wolf guard dogs, kept black mambas to poison political opponents, and plan to administer anti-fertility drugs to black women under the guise of vaccination.
When I started as an advocate, I began to come into contact with people who were becoming mandrax addicts. Addicts went from 0 to 850,000 over a very short space of time behind a barbed wire fence of apartheid.
Hello.
Hi, Martin. Pleased to meet you again.
Good to meet you.
You can either view Basson as a soldier that fought on a government instruction, that did its utmost to fulfill his mission. His mission was to set up a chemical and biological program. But maybe there was excesses. Maybe he did things for personal gain. Again, it's not. I cannot confirm that. I've tested chemicals that was seized following the dismantling of Project Coast. As a young forensic scientist, 1997, I was called in to test these substances. I saw lots of brown cardboard drums containing industrial-scale chemicals, lots of it. So I've sampled the materials, and I found out that these materials that were present at a front lab of the old government of South Africa could be used to make methaqualone. There were sufficient chemicals to make at least 3.5 million tablets. And the methaqualone was one of the substances that was manufactured with the intention of crowd control. Now, if you think about it, how can you control an unruly crowd with methaqualone? You cannot fly over them and disseminate the methaqualone over the crowd. But possibly you can start by getting the crowd hooked on methaqualone. And if they are hooked on methaqualone, that very same crowd will become a more docile crowd.
And on top of that, Project Coast wasn't manufacturing methaqualone in a capacity that seems ideal for use in the conventional crowd control sense. They were pressing it into tablets.
I cannot confirm on that. I don't know if they made it into tablets or not. If it's manufactured into tablet, then it's manufactured for abuse at street level.
Wouter Basson claims to have developed a process for producing weaponized methaqualone tablets that he would load into grenades and mortars. Yet the idea of a grenade carrying a payload of tablets has left most scholars of Project Coast confused, unless the weaponized tablets were intended for human consumption. Chandra Gould is a leading authority on Project Coast, and her book, Secrets and Lies, is the definitive text on the crimes and subsequent trial of Wouter Basson.
There is a very strong suggestion that the mandrax was put into tablet form. Now, obviously, putting it into tablet form isn't consistent with using it for crowd control reasons. It's very difficult to know either whether those tablets made their way into the black market at all, whether they made their way into the black market in South Africa or elsewhere. So there's no clear indication of what happened to the mandrax. One of the characteristics of the chemical and biological weapons program is in fact the amount of freedom that Dr. Basson had to decide what was done and how it was done. Plausible deniability was built into every aspect of this program. And I think that is one of the things that's made it so difficult to unravel the truth.
It's very simple. They must just show me what I did wrong. That's easy. All they need to do is bring one single case of anybody that was either damaged and or hurt in this process, and I live with it. But nobody can do that. I mean, it's been 20 years that this is going on, and there's not a single scratch and or blue mark and or bruise on anybody that can be proven anywhere. So who did I damage and how?
Wouter Basson continues to practice medicine with impunity and has started a new career as a motivational speaker.
The ruthlessness of it all has never fully been exposed.